Hey guys, how are you? Okay, so I apologize I was late. Skylar's actually sitting here with me and we had a doctor's appointment. And if you hear outside noise, it's because I'm in my car getting ready to go to another appointment. But I'm always going to go live with you on Tuesdays no matter where I am. So with that said, today we're going to talk about who should be at your IEP. And then I'm going to tell you a problem that I ran into that the school system will do. That will really flip everything that you're trying to do. So who should be at your child's IEP? Let me first introduce myself. My name's Raven Woods. I am a disability advocate and have been for the last 12 years. I help parents really rock their child's IEP so that they are successful in the process and understand how the steps work so that they can have a less stressful, overwhelming, frustrating time. So that is hopefully eliminated as best as possible, and you really get what's needed and appropriate for your children. So with that said, who should be at your IEP? The first person you actually want to make sure is there and find out who they are, what's their phone number, how to contact them, is the executive director of special education. That is the person right under, other than the superintendent, assistant superintendent, that is the person that's in charge of your county's special education programs. And that is your go-to for any issues, okay? That doesn't mean they're always going to help you in the right way. They're going to help you when it comes to the school system and always protect the school system, but that is the person you want at your IEP, the number one person you want at your child's IEP. The second person you want at your child's IEP is a person, hey Ashley, the second person you want at your child's IEP is possibly the psychologist. So a psychologist is somebody that can evaluate your child within the school system, but is their psychologist. So that doesn't mean what they say is, so to speak, God's word. So you want to make sure you go and watch my other video that I did last week so you know the steps in which to take first. And then you can also do this with the school system so you can put them together. So you want to make sure the executive director is there. You want to make sure the school psychologist is there. I no longer personally have the school psychologist. I don't have anything to do with that person unless my child is getting her yearly evaluation. Which I like to get from the school system because you actually get a lot of information that can help you in obtaining the right IEP for your child by this evaluation and having that on a yearly basis. So after the school psychologist, you want to make sure if your child has an IEP and they have special education and they're in special education classes, then not only do you want the regular mainstreamed teacher, or if they're in regular class and then go to special ed for certain things, you want both of those teachers there. So you want the special education teacher and you want the mainstreamed typical teacher, okay? So now you have the executive director, you have the school psychologist, you have both teachers, and then you have to think about who is it that you could have at that appointment that is going to help you in your homework that you've done or that goes with the diagnosis you have obtained. And if you obtained it, and if you haven't, go watch my video from last week so you understand what I'm talking about. We talked about identification, evaluation, and diagnosis, which is huge and your first step. So if in your identification, evaluation, and diagnosis, you went to the developmental pediatrician or a psychiatrist and it was recommended, or you went out and got outside evaluations with OTs, PTs, speech, whatever, make sure those people are there. So if you know your child needs occupational therapy or believes they do because of the diagnosis, or it has been recommended by outside therapists, then you need the occupational therapy person there. You need a speech therapist there. And physical therapy if that is what's suggested. That's why I start with identification, evaluation, and diagnosis, and that's why that is the hub of where you travel from with this IEP process, because it's like a building block. You have to build from the beginning, and it's kind of like a house. You can't build a house from the top down. You have to build the house from the bottom up. So you have to start at the bottom, which is that. And so I even talked last week on how if you have an IEP, to go back to the basics and start there if you don't have that, because it is the building block of your steps through the IEP. It's not a one and done system. It's not a one and done thing. It's always going to be something you're addressing through your child's educational career, so to speak. And if you have a special needs kid, your child can be in school past 18. So it's a long process. And so you want to start from the beginning. And even if you're halfway through and things are just not working from you, go back to the basics. So now you have the executive director, you have the school psychologist, you have the 2 teachers, and you have who, if you went to an outside therapist, occupational, physical, or speech therapy, and it was recommended that your child have that, you need to not only bring those evaluations to your first meeting, but you need to have those people there, and you need to put all of this in writing when requesting your IEP meeting. So you need to make sure those people are there. That is who can make the decisions. The executive director, okay? There's people under her, usually the person directly under her, the assistant executive director. They're called different things within the school system, but once you find out who the executive director is, you'll find out who is underneath of him or her. So either honestly can be there, but you can request the executive director, and if you request it, they need to be there. And so that's what I suggest. And typically the principal will be there. I've had the principal there before. I've not had the principal there before. They actually cannot make the concrete decisions, especially money-making decisions. So a lot of the school system take the executive director out of the process. Then you have the 2 teachers, you have occupational, physical, or speech therapy. Then you have the school psychologist, and you have the principal. Certain decisions can be made, but only within the school system. And if it costs any money to the school system and the division, then those people are not able to make those decisions. The school system will say they will and they can, but they cannot. They actually have to. That's why they will say to you, oh, well, let's do this for now, and we'll look into that at a later date, and we'll see if that's something that your child needs, versus making a concrete decision right there at that meeting. All concrete decisions are made at my IEP meeting. We don't wait and say, oh, let's see if this is going to happen, or, oh, let's see if this. No, this is what's going to happen. This is the changes that are going to happen, and this is why. And so I'm going to teach you in the next step why and how you argue things in the IEP. But having the right people there that can make the right and appropriate decisions is key to getting what you want done at your IEP meeting. So make sure that you go back and watch my video from last week. Again, we talked about identification, evaluation, and diagnosis. Hi, Leslie. And then you want to understand who has to be at the IEP for concrete decisions to be made, not what I call half-assed decisions, which is, well, this is what we'll offer, or this is all we can do for now. That's a key thing that they say. This is all we can do for now. And then a lot of parents, not knowing what their rights are or what their child's rights are, will just accept that. And that doesn't make parents stupid. It makes parents just not aware. And this isn't stuff that the school system will feed you. The school system actually does not offer any of this information. They say they got our backs. They say they're here to support us. But that is not always the case. And you have to understand that the school system is a political arena, and you know how politics works. So put the two together, okay? Let me tell you what happened to me. I was up till 3:30 in the morning last night because I received an email from the school systems. Now, as some of you know from my live, I had an IEP meeting on August 28th. Everything was perfect. OT I increased. PT kept the same because my daughter doesn't need that as much. And occupational therapy is even now, she's going to go 2 days a week to typing to where she doesn't see when she types now. It's so exciting. But the occupational therapist is going to go with her. And then I talked to the ABA therapist, and some people are for that, some people are not. That's actually been extremely effective for my daughter. And, you know, everybody has an opinion, but I haven't had any negativity with that. It's been amazing. I'm actually 9 credits away from my BCBA. I don't know if I'm going to finish or not, but I believe in it fully, and I respect anybody who doesn't. However, they're the ones who do a lot of the science, math, and history with my daughter. And, you know, you have to be able to pick and choose, you know, what's important. So I was able to talk to them, and then they also do outside ABA therapy with her. I was able to talk to PT, and she brought the regular PT in, who actually was an old special education teacher that now is the PE teacher. And so they worked together with Skylar, and it was an amazing program. It was an amazing IEP, other than reading. The reading specialist for the past year and a half has failed my daughter. She has not listened and abided by the IEP, which made the school system non-compliant and has been. Then we get into the meeting. I ask a series of questions. What's your experience with children with autism and disability? What is your experience, period? How many years have you had within the school system? Why has my child in the past year not increased in her level of reading? I asked all the concrete questions any parent would ask, but that's one thing I also teach you is if you don't know how, don't feel dumb. I didn't either in the beginning. I was a complete idiot when it came to this stuff. It's kind of like parenting. There's no rule book. And so don't feel insufficient or that you're going to fail your child because you don't know. I will teach you, and I will teach you where resources are that you can also follow up and keep up to date. So she failed my child. Every question I asked her, it was, I don't know. I didn't know I was part of a team. What? She had taught for 27 years. The executive director is sitting right by me and could not believe it. She even was prompting this reading specialist to answer the right way, which is what the school system would do. It's like their kind of sneaky way of doing things, but she was prompting her and she still said, I don't know. I didn't know. That's literally what she said. I recorded this part of the IEP. I did not tell them, but in my state, you don't have to as long as one party knows. And then what I do is I take what I recorded and send it to Rev and have them transcript it for me. It's genius. Make sure you do that. But that's a talk for another day. But I always make sure if I feel in my gut, I'm big on gut. Always parents go with your gut. I felt like it wasn't going to go right. So I didn't tape the IEP meeting, which went wonderful. And Skylar has everything she possibly needs. But I'm not going to ignore the fact that the reading specialist failed my child. And there's repercussions for that. I of all people know that when you make bad decisions, you have to pay for them and you have to own them. And then respect comes because we all make mistakes and have bad decisions. But then we're able to own it and not do it again. So that's what I expected, and that's what I thought that they were going to do. And they did initially. Lots of emails going back and forth. Everything that was talked about and happened, I put in an email. Even if we talked on the phone, I sent an email saying, yeah, on the phone on such and such date, I appreciated talking to you. This is what we talked about. Please correct me if I misinterpreted you wrong. Because then you are clarifying your conversation by phone. Because if you don't document it, it never happened. Period. Remember that. I talked about that last week as well. So, long story short, all this happened. I get this email at 11 o'clock at night. I can't sleep. I was so upset because they reversed it. And this is something parents also know. This applies in the other districts as well. Yes, absolutely, Leslie. And, that's so important to remember. And one thing that's important too is know that what you do and putting things in writing helps you understand, so you don't question yourself. I can't tell you how many times I questioned myself because they did what they did last night, which was they owned it at first. They didn't so much say, yes, we failed your daughter, we hired an incompetent reading specialist, but they did say, we're so sorry, we're going to rectify this, blah, blah, blah. Then last night, because I said, if you don't do this by this date, I'm going to report it to the state and make a state complaint. They came back last night with saying, we acknowledge the fact that the reading specialist did not answer your questions to what you approved of, and we apologize for that. Say that again. It was not about my expectations. It was about the fact that she could not answer one question. Everything was, I don't know. She didn't know that she was part of a team, yet she had taught for 27 years. She said she had 2 to 4 students a year with special needs, yet she didn't know how to deal with a child with a disability, their specific disability, and behavior issues that go with that. Because if there is behavior issues, that affects the teaching. And if you don't know how to deal with the behavior issues, nothing happens. There's no success because the behavior is taking over. She had no experience with that. School systems by law have to have licensed and qualified teachers. However, when it comes to disability, not only do they have to be licensed and qualified, let me explain qualifications. Qualifications is not a piece of paper. Qualifications is you're qualified to teach a child with disability to the extent that they have academic success. What does that mean? It means that I don't care if they're a reading specialist with all these qualifications, awards, I don't care what they have. But if they cannot teach your child with their specific need, then that is not qualified, or they are not qualified to teach your child, period. Does that make sense? So when they said that, I said, because they made a comment saying, your child has been with a licensed and qualified reading specialist approved by the state. So my response was, oh, okay. Well, does that mean a medical doctor who's qualified because they have a license? That's what they were meaning. They're qualified because they have a license in that area. Okay. So a medical doctor has a license in whatever. Okay. Whatever their specialty is, or maybe they don't have a specialty and it's just general. So then they do a surgery, the person dies because of some sort of neglect there due to being not qualified to do that surgery. Same thing. If you're not qualified, so you can be a reading specialist, but if you're not qualified to educate a child with a specific disability, you're not qualified. So again, let me explain that. You can be qualified and have a license in teaching, in reading, whatever it may be, in psychology, whatever. But if you're not qualified to work with a child with special needs and a disability, and that specific disability, and if that disability has behavior issues, that as well, then they are not qualified to teach and educate your child. Does that make sense? So what I said to them, I explained that, and then I also said what that is on the medical side is malpractice. What happens with malpractice? You get sued. That's exactly what I have the right to do if I wanted to. I've been trying to work with them with this. All I really want is rectification and ownership. I want them to own the fact that they screwed up. I want them to own the fact that they now have to rectify it. I want them to own the fact that now each day she's missing reading, and I'm counting those hours because by law, they have to make those hours up. But who suffers for that? My child. Because in her day, it's so busy, she doesn't get out of ABA because she has 2 hours of ABA after school. Where's she going to make that up? So she suffers and has to do it during Christmas vacation or whatever because of their lack of knowledge that they have a reading specialist that was not qualified to work with my child. Does that make sense? So I wanted to be transparent with you of issues that I still have, even though she has an amazing IEP, rockin' IEP. And I fought for that, tooth and nail. However, that doesn't mean you're not going to find hiccups along the way, or the games that the school system and the politicalness of it does and happens, and the wording that comes out of their mouths. And you just have to be smart enough to know and not follow into it that that's what they're doing. They're trying to flip it because they know you're now going to go to the state or whatever you're going to do, and they want to cover their butt. That's exactly what's happening. However, I lucked out because I recorded it. It's now not only recorded, but I sent it to Rev, and it's now transcribed and written out for me. So they can't lie about what happened. Okay? They can't. But the point is they'll twist your words, they'll twist what was said initially by them, and they'll try to cover their butt in any way possible. So don't let them do that. Always be one step ahead, cover your butt, and protect yourself and your child. So now we talked about today about who should be at your IEP meeting. Let me repeat that before I jump off. We have one more appointment to go to, and but I wanted to get this out, and I wanted to go live with you because no matter where I am on Tuesdays, I will do it, sick or not. So the first person you want there is the executive director or the person directly under her. I still suggest the executive director of special education. The next person is the school psychologist. You may or may not need that person long term, but initially you do. The principal will be there. The other person you want to be there, if you've had outside evaluations and it's been suggested, or you've been to a developmental pediatrician, again, go back and watch last week's video to understand what I'm talking about here. So you may need the occupational therapist, speech therapist, physical therapist, or what have you. Then you want to have both teachers there, the special education teacher and the regular ed teacher. So I hope you got a lot out of this live today on who should be at your IEP and why that's so important, because having the decision right then and there is key. Don't be BS'd by, oh, let's just wait and see what needs to happen, or oh, we can't accommodate that right now, or oh, they don't really need that right now and we don't see the appropriateness in that right now. Don't let them BS you. If you know your child needs something, you're gonna find a way to prove that they need it. However you do that, I'll help you if I need to. But bottom line, you need to get your child what's needed and appropriate. You need to fight for it with everything you have. It's our job as parents to do, and you won't ever feel like you failed your child, because you're doing everything you possibly need to so that they get what's needed and appropriate and have academic success. So have a great day. Message below if you enjoyed this, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, and pass this on and share it, please, if you feel anybody within your network would really appreciate and even need help when it comes to the educational process and the IEP with children with any type of disability. So I really want to make this a community and page where you can voice your frustrations, voice your concerns, ask questions, and I'm going to be sending you eventually over to a group so that we are a close-knit group who can really delve deep into the IEP process, get our questions answered. You can support each other. You'll have me, and it's just super important to understand this process so you completely nail it and really rock it. So have a great day. I'll talk to you soon, and good luck if you have an IEP coming up. Message me if you have any questions, and definitely you can sign up for a free consultation that I will talk to you about your IEP if needed for free. I will talk to you soon. Again, have a great day.